Eventually, I feel like I hit like a little plateau. I know what this next level is that I want to go to, but no one really knows how to actually get there.
$16,000 invested.
You're always waiting on your checks to come in. I have been struggling like crazy. So this episode, I didn't plan for it. I didn't write out an outline of what I was going to say. Well, I have an idea of what I'm going to say, but I'm basically just going to be winging it 100% of the video. But I felt like it was something that maybe someone would resonate with. Maybe someone can relate. Maybe someone can relate to the struggle and hopefully just kind of connects to someone out there. And this isn't the easiest thing for me to share. I kind of thought about it a little bit. I didn't necessarily hesitate because I just felt like from all the videos that I've been watching lately, maybe this is something where there's a lot of people in this place as well. So I'm just going to share it. So basically, I have been running my production company, Takai Media, for the past 9 years. And things were going pretty good for the most part. I'm not like this super wealthy person. I make probably a similar amount of money to a person who gets like the average person's salary at a job, but running my own business. I'm not a naturally born business person. I had to learn a lot of that on my own. And I had to grow and learn and adapt to a lot of different scenarios throughout my career of running my production company. And as of lately, I have been struggling like crazy. Like I've experienced some road bumps like along the way, but not like this one. This one has been the toughest one for me to process. And basically what that's happening is like it's practically going to that point where it's just going down under. And I never really thought that I was going to see that in my time. It doesn't surprise me. I could be better with finances, but I mean, in general, it's been tough. It's been tough to maintain the company. I took a lot of different risks within it to grow it, and it ended up paying off pretty well. Didn't last super long. I'm not blaming anything. There's a lot of it that has to do with me too. People will tell me, oh, it's the economy, which I don't disagree with, but at the same time, like, I'm not going to be the type of person who is just going to blame the economy for all my struggles. I'm not going to blame who's currently the president for all my struggles. I'm not going to blame anyone besides myself. It's my own, like, compounded little decision making that kind of led me to this point. So, kind of give you guys some back context. 9 years ago, I started freelancing. I started Takai Media, not exactly as a company, but just more like a name for it, essentially. And I just started off freelancing, and then I was able to build up a freelancing clientele and basically make a living off of that. And then I eventually moved more into just doing client work and freelancing technically. And then I was able to build a clientele from that. And then I was able to have my income streams be freelancing and producing content for clients. And then I would always grow pretty much every single year. The projects I would work on would get better. They would pay better. They would get more logistically complicated, but I always just adapted and grew and tried to learn new skills on how to run it better. Learning how to manage budgets, learning how to produce, learning how to operate with a very small crew. Outside of that, working on other projects, like I've shot a feature, I've shot a documentary. I got to interview Tony Hawk on it. I've worked with influencers. I've been able to travel internationally, but despite all that, still struggled. Maybe not struggled all the time, but it was like I always found it kind of challenging to actually grow things and get things up to a higher level. I did it here and there, but things would always kind of fluctuate. Um, so I feel like I've done quite a bit with this, but despite doing quite a bit, still feel like a bit of a failure sometimes. Like nothing you do within this sort of field, nothing you accomplish will ever get rid of that feeling. Like you're always whatever I set myself out to do X amount of time ago, and then I eventually did it. That would eventually become a norm for me, and then I would just think it's not really a big deal. So looking back on that, when you look back on it, it's like it shows a lot of growth. And I always thought I was on this upward trajectory of I'm always going to be doing bigger and bigger things every single year. But this year, 2024, like it's been kind of tough. And I've been getting by, a little bit harder to do it. And then kind of rewind a little bit of one of the reasons why I got here too is I wanted to try to grow my company and I really wanted to push it past the 6-figure mark. Not a huge number in the grand scheme of things, but making 6 figures doing video is like a dream for a lot of people. And I achieved that last year, 2023. And I was very like proud of myself for doing that. And how I got there was I felt like, not to knock anybody, but it's like I was always growing around people. I was growing around people that were a lot better than me. So I was always able to learn all of these different things and all these different skills and all these different ways of just growing and getting better. Eventually, I feel like I hit like a little plateau within my circle where it's just like, I know what this next level is that I want to go to, but no one really knows how to actually get there. Everyone kind of knew how to become a more successful freelancer, but no, not everyone really knew like, how to scale the company, how to like grow it, build that team and stuff like that. So I always felt like that was kind of missing. And then I decided, I just had this gut feeling about a course that I saw. It costs like 10 grand, which was a lot of money, but it really kicked my ass into gear to be like, all right, I need to focus on this. Hopefully the outcome is good. And then I learned a lot about the things that I was missing, which was in reality like doing sales. So long story short, I got a decent result out of it. It wasn't necessarily what I was expecting. I was expecting more consistent work out of it, but I didn't necessarily get exactly what I wanted. I wanted to learn a little bit more about like sales and marketing, which I just learned a little bit of all of it, not enough to give me some like huge results. And then when I felt like, and then I ended up signing up for another course, which I felt would help me fill that gap of what I didn't learn. And then someone who was in the same course as me actually signed up for this one. And then he said, this one is like, this is it. It will give you that result that we both wanted to have, which was kind of like learning how to run ads and stuff like that. So I signed up for it, about 6 grand. So $16,000 invested into learning how to grow my business, $16,000 of money that I kind of barely had. I mean, I had the money, but it's just like I wasn't bringing in enough money to where I can pay that off very quickly. But I took everything that I learned seriously. And I learned how to run ads and stuff like that and how to position myself in terms of an offer and in positioning in an authority, learning how to sell better. That was 2023, and that ended up being my 6-figure year where I learned how to run ads and do a lot more sales stuff and focus more on business growth type of stuff. So I did that and had a really good year. And then I turned it off for a little while because I got very busy in my personal life. And one thing that I learned about ads is that if it's working, you should probably just keep it on, because if you turn it off, it can kind of screw things up a little bit. So that was a hard lesson that I learned because I had them turned off for like 6 months or so. And it wasn't until the beginning of this year, like in February, where I decided to turn it on again because freelance work was a little slow. So I decided, okay, I'm going to hop back on this again. It didn't really work the same. I wasn't getting the same quality leads that I was getting before. So I don't, there's a lot of factors that can play into that, but I'm not going to go too much into that. And basically, it's just like freelance work has been slowing down. I've heard that it's slowed down for a lot of people as well, especially with like the strikes and AI and stuff like that. And then that's kind of why I focus more on commercial work. I don't rely too much on the film industry for work. And then a lot of other businesses are kind of struggling too and just cutting back on a lot of costs. And then I feel like this year at the specific season that we're in, I just kind of maybe didn't choose the right time to run it again. I don't know. There's a lot of different factors to it, but and then I was also trying out different ads, different offers and stuff like that when I should have just stuck to my original one, the one that was making me money actually. And then like I kind of just burnt out. I just kind of like burned the rest of the money that I had, like just trying to get it. And then I stopped at a good time, but then not gigs come in for me, just not fast enough. Like you're always waiting on your checks to come in, which is very frustrating. And then looking back on it too, like I had a good year last year, but then it's just like, well, I invested $3,000 into the ads and I got $30,000 worth of work back. I usually end up spending about 50, 60, maybe 60, 50 to 60% of the money of the budget on fulfilling. And I was trying to be a little bit more hands off and have people edit it and have people edit my content because it was just too much for me to handle at once, which I think was helpful. But at the same time, just wasn't bringing in the money fast enough. And then with ads, I would have to spend 300 to 500 bucks on ads in order to get one, maybe like $5,000 client. I got a few of those. So it's like you chop 30K in half, you end up getting about 15. Let's just say like I made 16 would probably sound realistic. And then I spent the $3,000 on ads. That ends up being like 12 or no, 13,000. And then my own living expenses. And then I got a big tax bill last year. That was almost $3,000. So it's like, I ended up getting like 10K, which was very frustrating. And then also little things like I had to replace a hard drive last year. I never had to do that before. It cost me $1,500 to replace a hard drive that had like 45K worth of work on it that wasn't finished. So I was not going to risk that. Like I went to the hard drive repair guy. He said $1,500 and I said, all right, say less. Like just fix it. I can't lose any of this footage. That would like kill me. And luckily, all the footage was recovered, but it's just like all these little hiccups just kind of added up over time. And I'm not saying this to say that I don't think ads work. I do. I really think they do, but I would definitely approach it a lot more differently now. So I guess getting into that, like when I was running the ads, yes, I was getting a lot of leads. I was making a lot more money than I was used to. The overhead was very high. And with production companies, like all of our projects that we work on are very expensive. Hiring freelancers is expensive. Hiring actors is expensive. Traveling is expensive. Editing is expensive. Your marketing costs is expensive. It was just really tough to kind of keep like a really good margin on everything. So what I kind of learned looking back on it now is that I feel one of the things I was doing is I wasn't super niche. The furthest niche down that I got was service-based businesses because service businesses need leads. I'm a service business. I need leads. So let me focus on lead generation as opposed to selling products. I tried doing some clients where we were selling products, but it was kind of a struggle for me. Excuse me. Anyway, um, yeah. So looking back on it now, I think it would have worked so much better if I um, was more niche. Like focus on a niche where the the projects aren't really so custom. That's what we're kind of used to when we first start out. It's like, oh, what kind of video you want, as opposed to here's a package of the kind of videos that we offer. And that would help make things a lot more predictable and streamlined and more predictable in terms of cost. And then you can charge it in a way to where you can have a higher profit margin. It was impossible for me to keep track of the profit margin when I'm doing everything custom. I would charge enough to where I felt like it was worth it. But then at the same time, it's just like we're at a time where it's like a little bit harder for people to invest into that. Again, I don't want to get into like those excuses, but I think objectively, like we're all at that kind of point right now. Um, so yeah, like streamlining a little bit better, having stronger systems and um, packages to where I can just make things a lot more predictable. When you don't have packages, then income is going to be a little bit less predictable. If you're not niche, then it's going to be hard to show results, consistent results for people. Because I was doing all these different niches, I had to learn everything from scratch every single time. And that's just a recipe for disaster in a way. Some people can do it, definitely. Me, it was pretty tough. So, where does that lead me to now? So, right now, I was kind of burning through the money on like the ads and all that stuff. And now I'm pretty short. I had to pay a tax bill this past year. And that was pretty much all the money I had in that account. So, that was tough to like see. And now I'm just kind of waiting in on payments from other clients just to kind of just keep it afloat, which I'm like, I've never like seen like the business like get to this point and get this low. And it's hard. It's hard to stomach that. And that's been carrying over, that stress has been carrying over into my own personal life too, and creating personal problems. And I'm not going to get into that. But, so where does that leave me now? Very fortunately for me, I feel like I've always been the type of person where it's like, even if I'm struggling, I'm going to get through it no matter what it is. Something will come up. I just feel like the universe kind of works for me in that sort of way for some reason, even if I don't deserve it. But buddy of mine's client that we work with, I help him out on the shoots. They offered him a full-time job and he took it. And then they subtly offered me one too. And then at the time, I was just kind of like, I still want to pursue my own thing. Because in the back of my mind, I'm like, man, I don't want to get a day job. Like, I still got fight in me. Progressively, like, the stress of everything just kind of put a damper on, like, my will to do things, my ambition to do things, just because it's just been, like, tough on me. I could, like, I should probably be spending time, like, practicing what I preach in a way. But it's just like right now, I feel so burnt out from everything and so drained to the point where I'm just like, fuck it. Like, I think so. I kind of need this break from it all right now. I don't want to give up on it. I don't view myself as a failed entrepreneur. I could feel that way sometimes, but I feel like in reality, it's like I'm only going to fail if I just quit. I don't want to quit at it, even if I have to take some time away from it and do it part-time for now, just so I can recalibrate where I feel like I could have fixed things. I think that would be very beneficial. And then what ended up happening, which is a cool story. I reached out to them and then they said, oh, the position's not available anymore. And I was like, shit. Okay. And then, So like a week goes by. I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do next. And then I get a call from someone at the company and they were like, hey, I heard you're interested in working here. And then I was like, yeah, I was. And then they told me that like, oh, it's not there anymore. So I'm just trying to figure out my own thing. And he's in like the advertising department. And he's just like, well, what if I actually pushed to get a job position created for you? And I was like, really? And he's like, yeah. And basically, I need extra hands in the creative like advertising department, but most of the hands are going into like the social media and like content part, not so much the ad part. So I can really use someone like you. And from what we've talked about, I feel like you're more than qualified to do like this position. I would just have to create it from scratch because at the moment they're not hiring, but I think I can put together like a valuable pitch and convince them that this is something that's needed and will be beneficial. And I was like, great. I would love that. So far, so good. A lot of people within the organization, a lot of them know me. They're all on board with it. They just have to talk to the big boss, which is currently what I'm waiting for. So hopefully by the time this episode comes out, I can have some good news about that because we all kind of have this idea in our minds where it's like, we don't want to work a day job. We want to be free. We want to do our own thing. We want to be our own boss. And I'm 100% on that same wavelength. I just feel like right now at this point in my life, I'm just like, I don't want to just completely go to that route. But I feel like right now I just need that mental space and clarity and time to really kind of separate myself from the business so I can understand and have the mental bandwidth to actually focus on the things that I've been wanting to fix. I just couldn't fix because I was so focused on needing an immediate check, focusing on my personal brand. I've always wanted to do that. I've had some attempts at it. I would always get burnt out or try to cut back on costs. So that was always a little bit of a struggle for me. But I feel like right now, if I have that opportunity to get that job, focus less on trying to get clients really fast, I can focus on building something a little bit more sustainable and built for long term. Ads it can benefit you short term and long term, but it costs so much money to get there. With social media and organic, yeah, it can take a long time to get there, but it's like I can do this on my free time. I can whip up the videos. I can sit here and talk to the camera and basically just try to make it happen. And one of the niche things that I would really like to do is like creating podcasts for people. I actually really like listening to podcasts, and the times that I've done shoots like this, it's fun. It's easy. It's fun. And I like doing it. And that's kind of where in my mind, I'm just like, well, if I want to focus on long-term work and consistent work and packages, podcast and something that's in demand, podcast is kind of like a good option. I've seen people make it happen before, so I'm pretty sure I can do it. I just have to kind of have that mental bandwidth and path and clarity in order and extra money to make it happen. So that's kind of my whole idea behind this. And in the process, making my own podcast as well, so that I can kind of just learn these things as well on my own. And it's kind of an opportunity for me to be creative again. I haven't really been creative in a while, like actually creative, not with a client attached to it. I've done some stuff that I find creative, like in the client work, but nothing beats just making your own thing and you're the boss of it. So that's kind of my whole attempt at this. And I don't know if anyone's going to give a shit about this, but I kind of just felt like it would be a good opportunity to just kind of document this. And maybe I can look back on it and just be like, yeah, man, you did it. You built all this stuff up when you were hitting your lowest point. Hopefully that's the case. I have no idea, but I don't know. It feels kind of good to get that off my chest and just to talk about it. And then hopefully someone resonates with that as well. I'm sure there's plenty of other people that are going through that same experience. And if you are going through the same experience, you're not alone. I'm definitely going through all of it. I've been told my whole career, like, you're very talented, you kill it, you do this and that. All of a sudden, I'm like, "Pff, I'm here." So it's humbling. And at the same time, it sucks. But you know what? Sometimes things have to get shitty before it gets better. And also, it's just part of the entrepreneurial journey where we're just going to face like these really tough moments in business. And right now, I'm currently in that. So I don't know, making this podcast kind of makes me feel a little bit better about that. Gives me something creative to do. It gets me away from doing client work, which I'm just kind of over right now. I'm just kind of over it right now. I don't want to stop, but at the same time, I'm just like, man, I need a break from this. It's just getting to me. But anyway, that's the end of my ramble. If you guys enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, like, and comment. And I'm going to upload more episodes just like this, business stuff that I've learned through growing my production company. I'll probably document what I'm going through as things are kind of happening. And then maybe if I end up getting it back on its feet, like that will be like a process that will be documented and shared that people can hopefully get something valuable out of it. And then, yeah, so thanks guys for watching and listening. Follow me on social media. I'm Scott Takai on every platform. And thanks for watching me ramble. See ya.